I'm Julie Kelly. Welcome to Who Wants to Be an Academic Registrar? I started in my role as Academic Registrar in February 2020. In fact, within 7 weeks of taking this job, we were in lockdown and I was working from home alongside the rest of my team. This presentation is in the form of a quiz and reflects on some of the high, or you might say low points of the past 7 months and some of the difficult situations I've had to face. The quiz is just like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but without the prize money at the end if you get the questions right. So what has the life of an academic registrar been like in 2020? This tweet from the 25th of September gives you an idea. Academic registrars and registry colleagues right across the country have been doing exactly this, delivering the impossible since March so hundreds of thousands of 1920 students could graduate and the class of 22-23 can exist. It's just that simple. So you might be wondering, what does Academic Registry actually do? Well, we're responsible for all the administration relating to the student journey. So that's taking you right from someone just making a general inquiry about starting a course to processing their admission, organising their arrival, maybe onto campus, and then registration, enrolment, assessment, organisation, exams, right through to the other end of graduation and beyond. And so really everything that we've done this year has been impacted by the COVID crisis. So why has 2020 been such a difficult year? Well, there's a number of different reasons. Probably one of the biggest reasons is that Academic Registry plans so far in advance. So we're already thinking about the next academic year, even though the current one's only just started. So there's a really long lead time in making sure that all the systems and processes are up and running in advance. So we don't really do lastminute.com. We don't do we find it very difficult to deal with uncertainty. So we like to know where we are, get things planned, organised well in advance so that students have got a really clear mapped out journey. So the government changes, especially the last minute government changes, have been incredibly difficult to cope with. The second reason I think that we've had such a difficult year is many of the things that we do rely on face-to-face contact with students. So when we haven't been able to have face-to-face interactions, we've had to push a lot of our processes online, which is fine and something that we were already thinking of doing. The trouble is this year we've had to introduce new online processes at speed, and it's not just one or two processes, but all of our processes have gone online this year. So yeah, lots of juggling been going on. Okay, so here's the bit I promised. This is the exciting bit, the quiz. Who wants to be an academic registrar? So, question number 1. It's the day before A-level results day. The government decides to implement a U-turn on its policy of centre-assessed grades. What do you do? Okay, now if you didn't see this in the press, so the government was expecting to use its famous algorithm to decide what students would be allocated by way of grades for this year. These are called centre assessed grades, and there was absolute outrage and uproar that students were being given grades that were clearly unfair, and there were some real issues with fairness in connection with perhaps students from more deprived areas. They appeared to be given grades that were lower than students from more affluent areas. Anyway, so this is what happened the day before A-level results. So normally the university would have assessed all of the, so all the students that were expecting to come to Hertfordshire, we would have received the results from UCAS on the Friday before the Thursday of A-level results, and we'd have checked everybody and we'd know who was coming. So yeah, so this was a big deal. And so what would you do? So here's the options. Train the admissions team on the implication of the government U-turn, implement a new admissions policy, brief the senior team on what the government had decided, or all of the above. So I'll let you have a little think about that. Okay, so the answer was D, all of the above. So, so actually, it probably happened in sequence actually. So, first thing I had to do was call a meeting of the senior team, so Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, etc., and actually just walk them through what the government had decided to do. And then it's that point that we decided that we would implement a new admissions policy, which meant that we could accept students with predicted grades instead of these flawed centre assessment grades. So once we decided that, so we've got a new policy in place, and then we had to train that out to the several hundred people that were going to be working on the phones the following day. So, and as you can imagine, we'd already briefed and trained these people, so we had to go back out and explain what we needed to do. So, so yeah, so all a bit lastminute.com. Okay, question number 2. Each year, students and their families attend a graduation ceremony. Social distancing regulations mean these ceremonies can no longer take place. What do you do? Okay, so options. Got option A, cancel the ceremonies. Option B, postpone the ceremonies. Option 3, organise a virtual ceremony. Or D, something else. Okay, well, in true Who Wants to Be a Academic Registrar quiz style, I actually phoned a friend with this one. We sought the advice of the Hertfordshire Students' Union because actually we'd heard very mixed reviews from other universities who'd held a virtual ceremony. So actually we asked the Heart Students' Union to help us collect student feedback about what was important to them. And so actually what came back very strongly was that students still wanted to have their time on stage in a degree ceremony. And so yeah, no thanks, we don't want a virtual ceremony. We'd rather wait and actually do the ceremony at some later date. So yeah, so that's what we've done, and we're hoping, and we have all our fingers and toes crossed, that we might be running a ceremony next year. Okay, question number 3 and final question. Each year, 8,000 new students attend a registration session in the LRC, so that's Learning and Resource Centre, the library to you and me, where their documents are checked, they complete registration, and they are given an ID card. Social distancing regulations mean face-to-face registration is no longer possible. What do you do? So we've got option A, build a new registration portal so students can upload their relevant documents. Option B, build a new virtual ID card on a mobile app which students can then access via the Hearts mobile. Option C, update all student and staff information around the registration process. Or option D, all of the above. Okay, so this was one of our more tricky problems this year because, yeah, so normally we would have a face-to-face registration for all our students, and actually what we've realised now we've had to build a new registration portal is actually that face-to-face experience was really valued by students because often they had questions or the documents weren't quite in the format that our maybe advice and guidance was asking for, and so we've realised that actually the hand-holding meant that students were able to register much quicker than has been possible through the new registration portal that we've built, and we've had to build a virtual ID card through the Ask Hearts app, which is great actually, but not so easy for our security team to be able to cope with when if they're trying to check who's on campus late at night. So that's helpful to get you into the library, but maybe not so useful for other members of the team. And of course, lots of advice and guidance needed for students and staff around the new process. So so the right answer was D, all of the above. Okay, so I've taken you through three of the largest decisions we had to make over the last couple of months, but honestly, it's the tip of the iceberg. As I mentioned earlier, we've had to change almost everything that we do to make it fit the sort of COVID world. So lots and lots of change, and I say it's the scale and the pace. Projects that would have taken 12 months to consider and review have had to be implemented within weeks, and all whilst working from home. I really miss the creative tools that we may have used in the past. Using whiteboards, brown paper, mapping, post-it notes. All of these things just aren't possible whilst working from home. The other complexity that we had is that during lockdown, we were in the middle of a review, so the STAR review, where we were reviewing the administration that was previously happening within the schools of study. And on the 1st of May, we were due to go live with a full restructure to bring those staff and those processes into Academic Registry. In the finish, we decided we would go early because actually everybody needed the support of the bigger team. So whilst delivering all this change and these new processes, we also then delivered a full restructure where we brought over 100 staff into registry and into a new team structure. So it's been an interesting couple of months, but it still feels like the right decision, and to bring this sort of the army together to best support the students and support the university, whilst of course we're all still working from home. So I've taken you through what's been happening in my life over the last 6 to 8 months, and say I've been calling it a white knuckle ride, and you can probably now see why. But what's next? So I think it's quite likely that we can expect further disruption. We already know that A-level results day is going to be pushed back next year, and this is a sort of date that's been set in stone for as long as I've worked in the sector, so it's been pushed back, so allows students to sit their exams later. So that's fine, but that means we also now need to make changes to the academic year for next year. So we're already looking ahead, but I think one of the things we can absolutely guarantee is that we can expect the unexpected, and there's more disruption to come, and we just need to continue to be fleet of foot and to make the changes that we need to best support our students and the university. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I just wanted to thank you for listening, and also I wanted to thank the hard-working, amazing team within Academic Registry. This presentation is dedicated to you and to all the colleagues across the University of Hertfordshire that have been supporting us over this difficult time.